What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheetsaber. We are going to be talking through this NFL slate. Week 13, God, the season feels like, I actually feel mixed. I hear a lot of people saying this feels like a long season, and I feel like I don't feel that way. And most importantly, we have to worry about Sheets' survivor pool, because that's a big deal. And I don't think we're going to have to talk about that on this show, but we will get into the NFL DFS slate for this week. Sheets, any overall thoughts? I'm coming off a few good weeks, so I need to keep this stuff going.
Yeah, first of all, I mean, I gave everybody a shot. I mean, I've been posting survivor pool stuff for the whole season. I didn't even want to do it as part of the premium. I wanted to do it completely separately, but I decided, because we were new, I would just do it anyways as part of the 21 a month or whatever. And for the people who have been following, I mean, you're basically been forced to win. I mean, I don't know what else I could do for you there.
Yeah, I've been nailing it.
And unfortunately, yeah, I can't really get into who I'm for GTO purposes and stuff. I can't really get into who I'm picking this weekend on this show, just in case anybody hears, because people could use that against you and stuff like that. But by the time it locks, I'll be more than happy to tell everybody what I'm rooting for. But yeah, that's definitely taken up a lot of time and energy. But that's part of what I like to do, is devote time and energy to kind of cool puzzles to figure out. And if they pay you $3 million as a result of it, even better.
No, absolutely. No, it should be it's exciting. Anyway, why don't we pull up your screen and let's go game by game here.
Yeah, I've been, it's weird. I've been winning, but like I've had no real sweats. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I've been grinding out profits and I've been winning a showdown, but no real sweat. I kind of want a sweat of some kind, which would be nice.
All right, let's do it.
All right, I'm in.
All right, so we've got Indy and Houston. I think this is okay. So I was a little disappointed with how Houston, they got to a good start last week, and I was sort of disappointed just the way things turned out. I was surprised to see Tampa unable to throw the ball against Indy. That threw me for a loop. I did not think that was going to be the way that game played. I had so much of that passing game that I had Fournette as my somewhat hedge, which worked out extremely well, obviously, as he completely broke the slate. But this time we have Houston against them, and I mean, look, the obvious thing is going to happen is everybody. I think that people are going to just jump on, and we're going to just load up on Jonathan Taylor. And I'm not going to say it's wrong. I'm just going to say at high ownership and all that stuff, and Indy, having to pass the ball a little more last week, maybe there's a chance he doesn't go out there and put up 35 fantasy points. But Taylor and Cooks are my highest level of interest in this game. And I don't think I want to play too much of the Indy passing game. I don't mind the idea of just going right back to Michael Pittman. I do think that some of these other guys are getting more looks these days. Ty, Pascal, you got Aston Dolan, who had a big play last week. But I think Pittman would be my next level of interest in this game, and he's still getting the target. So yeah, Pittman, Cooks, and Taylor all make sense to me. I just think you're going to get really high ownership on Taylor.
You don't have any interest in in the passing game as a stack or anything like that for Indianapolis, or not really?
I'm not going to say no, it's wrong or anything like that, but at all. I mean, it makes some sense, but other than Pittman, who am I playing? You have the double tight end situation, so that's always tricky.
Yeah.
You could use Ty. I mean, T.Y. Hilton against Houston used to be the ultimate play, right? Like, it didn't matter where it was. He just, 2 touchdowns, 180 yards, 9 catches. That was just like all the time. Maybe a little Ty and long shot tournaments, and you get the passing game going. I could get behind it. It's just not my favorite place to go.
For me, I have Indianapolis rated like 9th. That's the best I could do as far as the stack goes. And then I do like Taylor, and I like Pittman, and I don't like both of them together. So I would in like a Millie Maker, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So I would because I think you need 2 touchdowns from these guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and if you're gonna get, I can't play for 4 touchdowns from 2 guys. I just can't.
Right.
So I like Taylor and I like Pittman, but I don't like them both together. And I don't really like much on the Houston side at all.
Yeah, it's just Cooks for me. That's the only one I've got on my thing. But all right, so let's talk about your Giants and Miami. We don't know who's going to be quarterback yet for the Giants. It's assuming it's Glennon right now, but like if we play into that assumption, is this another week where maybe we should probably consider going back to or going to a little bit of Tua in the passing game, just because you get it cheap? We do see that he's had, the good rapport with Waddle. I mean, that was a monster game that Waddle put up last week. And I could get behind those two. I don't really have. I mean, look, Saquon Barkley at some point is going to do something. He's 6,300, but I have so much belief in this Miami defense. I really think that they're good. It's just hard for me to find the Giants pieces this week personally. And I guess it's going to depend on the receiving part of it, what happens with Tony and Shepard. But even still, I feel like I'm okay with playing Galladay, but they still have other guys they just sort of fill in. So I can't really find much on the Giants side in this game, but I do like the Tua to Waddle idea. What are your thoughts here, Sheets?
Well, you hit the nail right on the head in that, without saying it, is that probably the best play is the Miami defense in this game. I mean, whether it's Glennon or Daniel Jones, if you want to know the truth. I like the Miami defense, and I like Waddle, as you mentioned. And that's about the size of it. Miami defense, Waddle, and I'm not playing the Giants. I'm not playing that.
Yeah. I couldn't find. I do think that Barkley is the only thing, but it's just starting to feel like just throwing money away.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to be like that forever. But I don't know. We'll see. Actually, with Glenn in there, maybe there's more dump offs. I don't know. I'm just trying to find a way to use this guy because I still believe in the talent. But all right, Minnesota and Detroit. This is a spot where generally we want the running backs against Detroit because they always beat the hell out of them. By the way, a very low scoring game that Detroit definitely I think should have won the first time they played.
No kidding. That was one of my survivor miracles.
Yeah, that was crazy. I love the receivers. I think they're going to be hard to get to and therefore potentially lower owned. I don't want to stack it. I do think that Jefferson and then Swift on the other side would be my preferences, but I don't mind continuing to play Thielen at low ownership. He's not 5,700 this week like they made him, which was kind of ridiculous, to be honest with you. And no, I'm bearing the made. I said I think I said the wrong running back. I meant Jamal Williams this week because Jamal Williams without exactly a timeshare or an unsure timeshare, I think we're going to get a lot of work out of him, and he'll get plenty of work through the passing game. So even in a bad matchup, quote unquote, like he's still a really strong play. I feel like so. Actually, I really like Williams, and I think Jefferson or Thielen on the other side, preferring Jefferson.
I think Jamal Williams is going to get a little bit of ownership this week.
Yep.
Despite the matchup, but you know what? Listen, because of my survivor pool stuff, I mean, I'm forced to watch Detroit almost every week because I'm either betting against them or rooting for them against people who are betting against them. That makes any sense. And they did get their offensive line back a few weeks ago, and they do like to run the ball. I mean, they really do if they can. Mm-hmm. And as we see, I mean, literally not every week they have one bad game, like really like. Maybe two bad games the whole season. They cover every game. And even like the last, I said, I think Detroit's going to cover. And you're like, but I don't know if they're going to win. You're like, dude, it's only 3.5. What's the difference? There's always a difference, man, on Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? It always gets in there. And so I do promise you this. I am going to be rooting for Detroit in this game because there's going to be at least a handful of people that are going to be taking Minnesota and Survivor this week just because of the way the results distribute. So I'll be rooting for Detroit. Which makes playing Jamal Williams a little more palatable. But I do they're not showing up for me as far as that big of a deal. I have them rated like 8th or something like that. But, Jefferson and Thielen are just, cousins and that's the target tree, man. I mean, where the ball's going. Dalvin Cook, I don't know. Is he even I guess he's playing. I don't know. Whoever running back plays has to be in play as a 7-point favorite. Right against Detroit.
Madison at 7,600 is a lot, though. But I agree, definitely 100% in play. But it's a lot to pay. For, 7,600.
Yeah, but if he's like if Dalvin Cook is out,
yeah,
I really don't see. I mean, not that I don't see that much of a difference, but I see Madison as a good play at 7,600. I don't know.
That's fair. I probably should have mentioned that one.
But
long shot. There's two long shot plays for the millionaire maker. That's Josh Reynolds and KJ Osborne, especially Reynolds.
Well, I like the Reynolds, but you think, yeah, he was kind of chalky on Thanksgiving.
No, he was like 3% owned. He just happened to hit early, so people all said they had him. It was like one of those things where I was like, really? Everybody had him, but he was like 3% in the big one.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, that was a 3-game slate, obviously, so it's a little different. I don't think I can do it anymore. I mean, look, if this is going to be the week, maybe it's going to be the week Sheets. I'm really running out of patience with this lighting money on fire with Miles Sanders thing. Like,
we're on Philly, so we're done with Minnesota, Detroit.
I'm sorry, unless you had anything else from that game that we missed.
All right, go for it. Okay.
I just can't stand it. Boston Scott out carried him almost 2-1. Also had more target, had basically twice the usage. He also had the touchdown. I don't know what happened. I understand how Philly's always done this and it's made it tricky, but I actually thought they liked Sanders. And I mean, he's on my list because he's 5,200, but this is getting really frustrating. And by the way, it's also frustrating because he's on my better lineups last week. But it's like crazy. Like we had Eli Mitchell at 5,400, and Eli Mitchell was 8% owned in the big one, and I think Sanders was like 32. I mean, I just don't know, man. It's obviously the perfect matchup. It's everything should go his way, but you still have Boston Scott and Gainwell who could just as easily be the guys who get there. So I'd be more interested in maybe taking shots in the passing game here. Devonta Smith and Quez Watkins. I do have Watkins as one of the lower owned, one of the cheaper guys who I definitely am. He's had some near big moments this year. I had a big touchdown called back. He had a giant PI, a ball he probably still should have caught. And at 3,600, you don't obviously need that much. So those guys stand out as being, well, Smith especially. But I don't know if people are going to be hesitant to go back to Goddard. I would say don't be. The Philly passing game just massacred me last week. I had some Fournette and Mixon lineups with the Philly passing game, and it was just, I mean, they did absolutely zero. But this is a really good matchup for them. So I'm going to go back to it with a little bit of Hurts and a little bit of the Goddard, Smith, and maybe some Quez Watkins mixed in. And on the other side, I actually really like Elijah Moore if Corey Davis is out. If Corey Davis is in, I still think he's viable, but not as good of a play. That's where I'm at in this one.
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't know what the numbers say, but I don't think it's that great of a match. I think Philly stinks. And I think the Jets play hard, and I think it's a tough game for Philly, honestly. I think that Philly -7 is just not happening for me. It's one of those weird travel things too, where they were just at the Meadowlands, they lost, they go back an hour and a half back home to Philly, and they come back to the Meadowlands again for this game. That's kind of like a mind screw in some way. Mm-hmm. And I think and not to mention that Jalen Hurts is not 100%. I mean, he is going to supposedly practice and play, but I think I think Miles Sanders stinks. I think the whole team stinks, if you want to know the truth. So I'll go back to Goddard again just because of his price, and just because he's probably going to rate to be the best play. I'm not playing Sanders. I'm not playing any of that stuff. So for me, I'm probably just going to be off that game. Although I will say that the Philly defense probably makes some sense. In this spot, they're gonna rate to be a good play. They're gonna probably be popular also. But I think Philly rates. Look, Zach Wilson is going to be back. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. But I think the Jets are game. I think this is the NFL, dude. Everybody plays hard, and the Jets play hard every game. And I think this is it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be like an ugly 20-17 type game, and I don't really want anything of it for fantasy.
I like it. Okay, I like your take. As I always have interest, even as Philly sucked and as they have trouble. For the most part, Hurts has to have a really awful game not to at least be a decent option. Because he just has such a high floor with the rushing upside, and
sure.
All right, Arizona, Chicago. Actually, I'll tell you one thing right off the bat. This spread feels fishy to me. I understand Arizona. I understand assuming that we get Kyler and our boy Hopkins back, which, by the way, I love the idea of playing together just because, to get these guys at this price, I don't care how unhealthy they've been. I don't care what the hell's going on. They had the week off. It seems like a smashing thing, which is why they're, an 8-point favorite on the road. And I'm not a huge high on Chicago person. It's going to be cold. Arizona team that travels over there. They haven't played well in the type of weather. This feels like a Chicago, sneaky, either competitive or potentially could pull a weird upset in this one. But just from a number standpoint for DFS, I like both running backs on both teams. 5,600 for Montgomery, 59 for Connor. I would give a little bit of the edge to Connor. And I really like Kyler Murray, but I like the Murray to Hopkins stack, assuming that they both play. Yeah. If they don't play, it's back to the other guys. But probably Chris Kirk being my favorite of them. AJ Green right there, and more. They're all interesting. And then you have Mooney on the other side, and I'm not sure what to do with him if Robinson's back, if Robinson's out. Even if Robinson's back, to be honest with you, I think I'll probably still have some Mooney. So I like this game a little bit as a potential stacking game, which is weird because I'm saying how Arizona might struggle going out there. But that also means this we have a tight game, and you've got really cheap options on Chicago, and you've got players for their talent level who are too cheap on Arizona. So I like the Arizona-Chicago as sort of I don't want to say off the board, but maybe a weird game stack.
Yeah. I can't imagine playing much of this in the December Chicago cold. I think it's going to be Dalton, right, for Chicago again.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think that I like Montgomery, like you said. I think Arizona's not stupid too. I think they'll try to make Dalton beat him, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you who I like. I don't know what his price is. I'm gonna look at him, but dude, he looked really good on Thanksgiving. He's really coming into his own as a good player. It's this Cole Kmet. He's only 3,600.
Yeah, that's a good play. I forgot to. You're right. Excellent call. Yeah.
I mean, I like that a lot. I don't even know what he's projected. I don't even have him on my list as like one of the top plays, but he's got to be, right? I mean, like he's especially if Robinson remains out, right? I mean, that's I like that. And I mean, Arizona, if those guys are back, it's just like maybe it feels like a sucker play or whatever, but to play this desert team going into the freaking Soldier Field, if it's even called Soldier Field anymore, into the cold on the road, first game back from injury. I don't know about that. And the other thing is this is actually kind of tricky. So I did a little research on this. Apparently, like Kingsbury is like, they did a lot of like research on like how to play better with bye weeks, something like that. Something's in their head about like last year they came off a bye and lost at home to Miami, right? Mm-hmm. Apparently their record dealing with byes is pretty thin. Mm-hmm. So they're putting a lot of work into it. So maybe it's in their head a little bit. I think this is a tricky, tough spot for Arizona here. I would think Chicago against the spread. I don't know how exactly they're going to do it, but
me either.
Chicago against the spread is probably the way to go.
I totally agree. I think this game stays very competitive, and I actually could see it being, like you said, it could be one of those ugly ones. But I still have some interest because of the prices and the pieces. I'm going to have some interest in this game. Okay. But now we're getting into some good stuff, some stuff that actually people are going to want to do. I think. Chargers and Cincinnati. Why don't you start this one off?
Yeah. So I have the Chargers as, kind of tough. So what I have is I have one team at the top, and then I have like four teams kind of tied at second. One of them, by the way, was Philly, but I'm just not doing it. And then that third tier, I have the Chargers in that second tier as well. And I also have Cincinnati in like third tier. So when you ever have two teams that are like both in there, I mean, it obviously makes for like a pretty good game stack. And these are two teams that, they might be going in different directions, man. I mean, Cincinnati is like really just coming on, and LAC, they're showing that weakness that we're used to, sort of like not being able to pull games out. They got off to a rough start against Denver, and then they couldn't ever recover from that. But yeah, I mean, it seems to make sense to me to play both sides of this game, and your normal Ecklers and Keenan Allens, and then on the Cincinnati side, I suppose the Burrows and the Chases and the whatevers certainly seems like. But again, I hate to make too much of this, but watch the weather, watch the temperature, watch all of it. I mean, Cincinnati in the winter's no bargain either, especially for a team coming from LA.
Right.
One of the great. I mean, we could talk a little bit, but
yeah.
Almost like one of the greatest, like easiest plays, like the history of sports betting, maybe just as you were born. Actually, you were already alive for this one. There's a really famous playoff game where San Diego played Miami, where Kellen Winslow scored, was like freaking hero, and Miami came from like 100 down, including like this flea flicker play to end the half, and they went into 2 overtimes in Miami, and San Diego was able to pull it out in like one of the greatest games of all times in overtime in Miami, and they get rewarded for that by going into Cincinnati the next week in negative 10-degree weather. I mean, that was like, they may as well have not even showed up for that game. I mean, that was ridiculous. So I have seen the Cincinnati cold wipe out many of these California teams before. So I don't want to get too crazy with the Chargers, but they certainly do rate to be one of the better options. And with the normal guys that I mentioned.
I'll have this game stacked in so many ways. I understand what you're saying. I just think that the upside is first of all, even if we think that about the weather, then fine. I love both running backs, so I'm happy to do either of that. You know what I mean? Both Eckler and Mixon in any kind of weather. I'm not going to worry about it at all in this type of situation. I can't get over the Mike Williams price at 5,700. It just feels like too big upside. I also like both the main receivers, Keenan Allen and Jamar Chase. And then I want to mix in Higgins and Boyd. So I'm going to have a lot of exposure to this game. And I'm just going to say this, like, this is a gross play. And I know I've said it a couple times before. I've been right, I believe really right twice and really, really wrong like 4 times. But when you're really right twice and you're really wrong 4 times, it's worth it usually. I will just point out that guys like David Njoku had like 150 receiving yards and a touchdown, or was it 2 touchdowns against the Chargers? He had put up a massive game. Maybe you could mix in a little Uzoma in some of those Cincinnati passing stacks. They have 3 good receiving options that people are going to choose from. People don't like Uzoma. They don't want to pay down. They don't want to play him. He's 3,200. He's 3,200. He's not going to project anything like Cole Kmet, other guys in this price range. But I think there's an upside for him here, and I will be taking those shots. Let's talk about the team that I think is by far actually the highest scoring projection on the slate, and for good reason. Tampa Bay, Atlanta. Sheets, what are we going to do here?
Well, what do you mean? I mean, Atlanta's, Tampa's going to be the top projected stack on the slate. They're going to against the team that you can get yards against, and as you mentioned, like even though they scored like a zillion points last week, their passing game is a little substandard. I think that they get that right, and I think Tampa Bay scores a zillion points. I mean, and their rate to be the top plays. I mean, that's they'll be owned, but I think it's pretty easy to me. I mean, not easy. I mean, Brady and Godwin and these same guys, right? Gronk, Evans, and then Atlanta, you would go play Pitts, Patterson. That looks easy to me. No,
I can't play Patterson against Tampa Bay.
He's a wide receiver, though. Don't worry about that.
I mean, just the running, though, it all like he still got two rushing touchdowns last week.
Right.
I'm having a really hard time of trying to find anything I like on the Atlanta side, which is weird because I really am a fan of trying to take advantage of what people are now finally acknowledging that is a very suspect secondary, partially because of the way that Tampa Bay gears up to just make sure no matter what to stop the run. Russell Gage would be the most logical person, I think, because the natural thing that that the Bucs will try to do, I always do this with Brady teams, is to probably try to limit Pitts. So Pitts or Gage. I think Pitts is obviously the better of the 2 plays, but I think Gage is actually kind of interesting. And then Tampa, Godwin, Gronk, and Evans are all strong plays to me. And the issue, what are we going to do is the Leonard Fournette thing is like that's an incredible week that he had last week. It's really hard for me to have that to play him coming off of a week like that, where I think he's going to end up being higher owned than probably is worth it for the situation. One thing in general is that we haven't really seen really big games in back-to-back weeks from Fournette all season long, but it is a running back against Atlanta. So it's like, I just feel stuck on that play. But I think having it being overweight on what I would say is Tom, in addition to everything else, Tom Brady is a legitimate chance to win the MVP. And I think, you're coming off of a week with I believe he had one passing touchdown to Fournette. I think you could see him going through the air a lot more, especially in the dome. So I like, even if I don't run it back, I like a Brady to Evans and/or Godwin, preferring Godwin a little bit. Just as a skinny stack on its own. Like, I just think that they could completely light up and break the slate. You might see 50 points between those 2 receivers and Brady with another 30. And yeah, it costs you something to get there, but that's actually like that, you do that. And then all you have to do is get your other pieces right and you're in great shape. I mean, that's to me, a very logical way this game plays out. I think they beat the hell out of Atlanta for what it's worth.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Washington, Vegas. You want to start off?
Yeah. So this could be kind of the sucker play. These Vegas guys are projecting really well, especially Foster Moreau. But Foster Moreau and the other guy, was it Renfro or something, whatever? I don't know, man. I'm not too thrilled about this. They do project as like kind of a secondary stack option for me. Have them rated right alongside these other teams, but I don't know, man. I don't want to play Foster Moreau. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to play any of it, if you want to know the truth. And I don't really feel like playing Washington either. I kind of want to avoid this.
Yeah, I'm going to be all over. I think Antonio Gibson's one of the best plays on the slate, maybe the best play, like maybe my favorite initial play. 5,700 for him at running back. If everybody wants, look, I'm all for the Jamal Williams play, but why wouldn't we take a guy? You're going to take a guy who's going to be 1,000,000% more owned, who's 300 less, who gets, even if he gets a ton of work, no, he's not going to get Antonio Gibson level work. And Antonio Gibson against the Vegas defense that has looked completely sketchy most of the second half of the season so far. And I just can't get away from it. I love that play. I don't feel in love. Like, I don't want to stack the Raiders up. I understand it. But I will eat the Foster Moreau chalk a little bit. Look, we know how much they love throwing to the tight end there. He didn't exactly break the slates when we had this happen before, but he did have 6 for 60 and a touchdown last time we had no Waller. It was against the Eagles for what it's worth, but I like those plays. The wide receivers for on a big slate for Vegas feel a little thin to me. I still think there's always upside for Bryan Edwards, but maybe I'm just holding on to hope a little too long with him. But that's really all I came up with over there. I do love the Gibson, and I'm always going to say Terry McLaurin's a great play. They just look for him all the time, but there's just plenty of higher receivers I think I like a little bit better. But I do like the Gibson and Moreau part of it.
All right, so Rams Jacksonville. This one I can talk about only because it's so in the circle pool, nobody has the Rams available, including us. So I can just talk about it from that perspective. I do have the Rams available in one of my survivors. So we're down 13 people. I saved them all the way until this spot. And I'm dropping that on people. I mean, I don't know. Everybody used them early, so nobody else has them pretty much.
Right.
This is like, I mean, this is what you play Survivor for, honestly. To have a big overcard over all the other plays, pretty much.
Right.
That nobody's on. So, I mean, I'll just put it to you this way. I like Henderson. I like the defense. I'll say this, that if the Rams can't beat Jacksonville, right, at home with all they got going, not to mention, not that he needs it, but a little Jalen Ramsey revenge. Right. I mean, if they can't win this game, I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
I think it's going to be a freaking whitewash. With that said, I mean, like I said, I mean, how does that look for the rest? Like, does that mean you can't play Cooper Kupp at 9K, right? Does that mean you can't, play Stafford? Are they going to, but then again, we've seen this before. We've seen Rams as like a big favorite, but yet they still get it done, and they spread the ball around. So I don't want to get too fancy. I think I want to play the Rams. I want to play all the guys I just mentioned. I want to, dude, it's tough to afford Kupp at 9K, but whatever. I'll probably try some of that. And Henderson just seems like just such a freaking logical play. And Rams defense, they're probably expensive, which is why they're not showing up. I don't know what they are. What are they, 5K? I mean, what are they? So I like that. I don't want to play James Robinson in this spot.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it. I just don't see the production. I don't see the game script. I don't see any of it.
Yeah, I do have a run back for you if you want to play the Rams, though. Look, if you're going to want to spend down in one place, I have these guys who I make my list of. Quan Treadwell.
Dude, that's what I gave you guys last week in the no own spot.
You nailed it.
You got 9. I mean, you didn't nail it. You got 9.
I knew. Hey, for 3,200. I mean, look, he had 8 targets. I mean, you know what I mean? He had a chance to nail it anyway. But at 3,200, I'll take that shot, especially because I have secondary receivers against the Rams, what you want to do anyway. I actually think Chenault and Marvin Jones are both like interesting. I don't know what they're going to do with Ramsey exactly. I mean, I assume they'll do the usual, but that means whichever one lines up in the slot. But sometimes that's going to be Quan Treadwell, and then it's sometimes going to be Tavon Austin. And I am not saying play Tavon Austin. I want to make this very, very clear. It wouldn't surprise me if they gave him a little, if he somehow got in the end zone once or some weird play or something, because he, I don't know, come back and haunt the Rams. We had so much hopes for him, but yeah, I don't mind the passing game. It's hard to get to Kupp which makes me kind of want to do it.
Yeah.
But I actually think the best receiving option is Van Jefferson. And
it has to be, right?
yeah, I really think, I mean, that game he had against Green Bay, which by the way, I mean, that touchdown they had called back to that foot because his foot was like a tiny bit out of bounds. Like he could have had an absolutely monstrous day. And they really have started to like him more and more. The targets have been consistent. Even when Woods was still playing, he was starting to get more and more opportunity. So I like that. I like him as an individual play the best. I don't mind if you want to go Beckham, always upside there, but I think that Jefferson is what a guy I would lean towards.
I think that if the Rams really can do whatever they want in this game, this could be one of those games where if Stafford really wants to be like an elite player, he'll be like Brady. He'll make sure each one of them gets a touchdown.
Yeah. And I should have mentioned the guy who literally kills us all. Well, actually, Daryl Henderson. Like, I understand. I actually have been on the Henderson is projected to be this incredible play every week,
and he never does it.
And he basically never gets there. And part of it is because they have a really hard time running the ball. And if there's a time where you want him to do it, this would be the time. One thing he's got going for him that raises his floor is he's been getting targets out of the backfield a lot more than I would have thought he would. So I think at 6,100, he's a very, very solid player running back. But I don't usually like him. I didn't even want to play him on the what was the slate the other day? That was when I just had the afternoon slate. I just couldn't bring myself to quite click the button. Anyway, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. This is Sheets. You have anything in this game?
Yeah, I have a rant. That's actually not a rant. So Yahoo posted up their power ratings yesterday.
Yeah.
They have Baltimore like rated 4th. I'm like, okay, thanks. Sure, thanks. Yeah, you care to put some money on like Baltimore against about 7 guys you have ranked below them? You got like Rams ranked 9th or something like that. You might be Buffalo at Baltimore at 4th. Okay, that's fine. Baltimore, let me tell you something about Baltimore. Baltimore and Pittsburgh, here's the one thing. First of all, they both suck, okay, in different ways. But but when they play each other, this game can go any freaking which way. And it's been like that since freaking Brian Sipe was quarterback for Cleveland and Terry Bradshaw for Pittsburgh. That you could get a 6-3 and you can get a 42-30. All right, it's very possible. Maybe that's the deal, Bobby. Maybe you want to really just like kill people. You'll play freaking Pittsburgh, and you'll play Big Ben. This Deontay Johnson is good. You know what I mean?
Oh, he's really
good. Play him, and you play the gin and vermouth guy, the tight end, whatever his name is, and for Pittsburgh or whoever else, you got the Claypool. I mean, this game could totally freaking shoot out. And maybe you run it back with just like a naked Lamar or something like that, where you play Lamar on one side, and then you play the Pittsburgh receivers on the other side or something like that. I don't know. It's not the type of thing I usually do, but maybe this thing has some potential.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I kind of like the complete stacker fade logic that you got going here.
Yeah.
Both tight ends are probably the guys I would look at the most, Freiermuth and Andrews, if Freiermuth is in fact playing. If not, that opens up a whole other thing. Baltimore, I don't really want to play Marquise Brown, but then I'm sort of wondering to myself, maybe why not? Like, he's 65, which is a little higher than we used to play, but we've seen an upside from him. That's all I could get to, because I do always want to play Lamar a little bit, especially in a game that could get a little wild. But like you said, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised 10-7. I wouldn't be surprised 35-30 or whatever, 38-35. I'm having trouble really getting to outside, like Deontay Johnson versus Goodwin. Versus Brown. Deontay Johnson's going to catch more balls, but Hollywood Brown is going to have 4 deep shots, and if he catches one of them, I don't know, man. I just have a real like, okay, I'm probably going to stay away from this game, but if I did, I may get a one little lineup where I do something along the lines of what you're saying. And one thing I do think is interesting, though, is Naji Harris. I think I expect to get overlooked and has sort of trended downwards lately in terms of production. I think Naji Harris could have a big day. We've seen some monster games against Baltimore so far from the rushing side of things. So some interest in that stack or fade or thing, but I just mostly don't want to get that heavily involved in that game is my current thought.
So, and I'll tell you, man, I watched this ball. You saw. I mean, I was sweating his Ravens or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
Lamar was really, really bad.
I know he doesn't look right. Yeah.
And then even that touchdown was, I mean, he had no business throwing the ball. His arm got freaking hit. God knows where the ball actually goes, and his ball didn't get hit. Arm didn't get hit. It happened to go where Andrews was sitting down, but that was a terrible performance by Lamar. And I'll tell you something else, which, you know, again, I don't usually watch the announcers or put too much of what they have to say, but they were right. There are a lot of teams that are getting after him by freaking blitzing him. And I don't have a lot of faith in Tomlin to ever do the right thing, honestly. But when it comes to this, I don't know. I kind of really like Pittsburgh in this game, if that helps anybody.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. No, I can see what you're saying there. I could also see Pittsburgh getting completely stomped. I really could see anything, and I have so little feel for what Pittsburgh in general is like. They play these 9 to 7 games and they beat a good team. And then next thing you know, it's 42-37 against the Chargers. And
Pittsburgh's coming off of a freaking just a bloodbath against Cincinnati.
Oh, they got just shellacked.
They're coming home though. I mean, like, how many times have we seen this? You know, they just come home with the terrible towels in the division rival, and they just freaking put it on. You know.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. All right. Well, we have an interesting spot over here in this next one.
Well, what's interesting about it is we're also talking about pride and stuff. We're going to really see like what Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll and all the Seattle people have in them, because their season is now over. After that performance last week, I mean, they're now 3-8 or whatever they are. So what are you going to get from Seattle over the next 7 or 8 weeks? I mean, I don't know. And on the other hand, you have San Francisco, who has found their stride, to say the least. You know, and it could be tough going for Seattle, like for a while. I'm not playing that. If anything, I'll play San Francisco, and I don't like doing that either. But I think San Francisco is going to try to do what they did. Even though last week, again, we talked about this, that could have ended up in like a shootout like that, which it did. But San Francisco still wants to run the ball, okay? And they still like to play physical.
They did it by running the ball. That's how all the guys scored.
Right. And the thing is about this game, the one play, which is just, I mean, it kind of sucks that you're going to have to deal with ownership to finally get this as like your smash play, but it's definitely Ayuk time now. I mean, like that's like, I mean, with what's his name going to be out, you know, I hope he's just not too highly owned, because it's definitely Ayuk season as far as I'm concerned. And then again, if you want to play game script, you can play Mitchell and San Francisco defense. I don't have the slightest bit of interest in playing the Seattle offense until further notice, but that's just me. What do you got?
I'm terrified about exactly what you're saying about Seattle, because I really want to stack this game. Well, Jawan Jennings is the guy who we can kind of assume will take at least part of the Debo role, I think, or the Ayuk, which at 3,100 you're gonna have some interest there.
I gotta put him down. Okay.
Yeah, Jawan Jennings. I just think and you know, it could end up being Sherfield. We see all these different things from San Francisco all the time. Somebody might run a route the way that Shanahan doesn't like in practice, and then he freaks out. I don't know how we don't play
Kittle.
What's that?
What's gonna be Kittle?
Absolutely. I love the Kittle, and I love the Eli Mitchell. Like Eli Mitchell, the biggest issue with the San Francisco running game is, they will split some carries with other backs, but he had 31 carries last week. Yeah. And Debo had a bunch too. So Debo is like his main threat, and also a red zone threat that he doesn't have to worry about anymore. Yeah. So I think Mitchell is like just an awesome play. I love Ayuk. I love Jennings. And I would like to find something to run it back. And I think what I'm going to have to do is just suck everything up. Say, like, I think Russ has been a little bit checked out. I think that all this season has sort of drifted away for them. You've got DK, so there's some bad stuff that had been said. Apparently, I don't know exactly I don't remember exactly what it was. I just know I've heard it from friends. I don't know. I still am a little bit interested in maybe trying to stack it up fully and play the Seattle side of it. You know, one of your last home games, who knows if he'll even play much after this week? Who knows if he'll even play this week, to be honest with you? Yeah. Russ, I mean, there's the only reason, what's he playing for? Like, he's already basically said he's going. So it scares me a little bit, and it's harder with the receivers. In that time, he tends to look a little more towards Lockett than Metcalf, but it's hard for me to ignore Metcalf here. So I'm going to have different stacks this game, but most of it's going to be like just I'll play 2 or 3 San Francisco players together. I don't mind. I don't mind playing Kittle, Mitchell, and Ayuk, by the way. That's not an impossible thing. Kittle has rushing upside too. When they get to the goal line, he also gets the carries.
You know what's interesting? I mean, I like talking about sports and sports betting psychology and stuff like that. These teams can go a lot of different ways. Because on the one hand, you could say, "Oh, Seattle, their season's over," or whatever. And another way it could go is, okay, now there's no pressure. Okay, Russ, just freaking lob it up to DK Metcalf all day for all we care. You know what I mean? So it's possible without the pressure, they actually play a little looser, which certainly makes a little bit of sense.
Also, it makes sense they would do it against what has been over the course of their time their biggest division rival. So
I get it.
That's a logical spot to try to get your best effort. So there's no line on this game, by the way.
No.
And the reason I think that there is no line is I think that people are thinking what I'm thinking too.
They're going to shut down Russell Wilson. That's it.
Well, like they don't have any reason to play. They don't have any reason not to or to play him. Like I guess they could play him just for one last thing for the fans, but it doesn't seem like a very nice situation out there. So keep an eye on that one. And by the way,
I have a line actually. I have 3.5 basically.
Oh, you do? I have no total.
Yeah, I have 3.5 and 45.5 across the board pretty much.
Honestly, even though I'm worried about Seattle's offense, I still like the over on that one. I really think San Francisco is going to put up a bunch of points.
This is, and let's talk through this. This is one of the things that tangentially affects spread doing Survivor is, Seattle right now is looking to be a very, it would seem to be a smash easy play in week 17 when they're home against Detroit, right? But if you're planning for that, what happens? I mean, like what are the odds that like Russell Wilson is actually quarterbacking that? So it's and again, you don't get to change your mind on your path in some sense. So it's that's one of the things I'm thinking about is what is the state of Seattle right now?
That's a really good. That's a really good point. I think even without
like Detroit, you have a team, and we talk about it. A team like Detroit that's going to just keep freaking playing hard every game, at least until they get their win. You know what I mean? Then maybe they give up. But you're going to a team like that is going to be playing hard every freaking game against some of these teams that are just basically, enough already. You know what I mean? Those are tough spots.
Right. Boy, I just got a note, by the way, to speak about what the DraftKings owner. Just funny, the DraftKings is just constantly going down since that call. Like they're just.
Yeah.
This by the way, it's getting close to be this. In my opinion, the time to buy. I from my little thing from any of my friends who actually do this. I know you are on a whole different level and all that stuff, but that site is not going to go back to where it was. Anyway. For some reason, I forgot for a second the Lions lost last week to the Bears. I actually had it in my head that they won for some reason.
All right. Tie against Pittsburgh. That was it.
Yeah. So just real quick, some favorite highlights. I've got a bunch of guys written down, but my favorite, I love the Cincinnati and the Charger game. Again, we'll keep an eye out for the weather. I like the San Francisco Seattle game. I think it's interesting. I like Arizona Chicago, which is a really weird one. It's a little off the board. Tampa Bay as a solo stack. And then the weird Pittsburgh thing that you mentioned as those games. But I love Antonio Gibson. I love Eli Mitchell, Higgins. T. Higgins. Everybody basically in Cincinnati Chargers. Mike Williams, James Connors. I really like. Mooney. I mentioned another part of that game. Komet, Van Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk. Those are the guys who I have circled right now. And I do think I will play Foster Moreau at that discount, but I don't know how much I will play him by the time the week's over. All right. Anything else, Sheets, before we get out of here?
Yeah, let me look at the errors and omissions. Let me just see. Yeah, I forgot to mention that I did like Fournette again for Tampa.
Yeah.
Mitchell, you mentioned. I think I hit on pretty much all of the plays that I kind of liked. So we're good to go.
Sounds good to me. All right. Well, good luck to everybody. Lucky week 13. Somebody take something down this week. And Rhodey and I will be back with you for the show tomorrow. Good luck, everybody.
Good. All right.